The awakening. The salvage ship drifted through the debris field like a metal insect searching for prey. Captain Vorn of the Krell Empire studied the ancient star chart displayed on his console with growing excitement. His crew had found the artifact floating in the ruins of an old research station, abandoned for millennia. The data crystal contained coordinates to hundreds of worlds, most of them already known and colonized. But one set of coordinates stood out, a world marked with symbols that translated roughly to origin point and restricted zone. Vorn had been scavenging the edges of known space for 15 years. He understood that restricted zones meant valuable salvage. Ancient civilizations always left their best technology in places they wanted protected. He sold the coordinates to his government for enough credits to retire comfortably. What the Krell military chose to do with the information was no longer his concern. He had done his part. 3 months later, Commander Zephyx stood on the bridge of the Imperial warship Devastator. Around him, 19 other vessels moved in perfect formation through the void. The Krell Empire had sent a full battle group to investigate the mysterious coordinates. Zephyx was a decorated officer with scales that shimmered deep purple, a sign of his noble bloodline. He had conquered 12 worlds in his career and expected this mission to be routine. The fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of an unremarkable star system. Sensors immediately detected a yellow star with 8 major planets orbiting it. The third planet showed signs of life. Electromagnetic emissions, artificial satellites, and atmospheric composition all indicated civilization, but the technology level seemed primitive. No defense platforms, no military installations in orbit, no energy shields protecting the planet. Zephyx examined the sensor data with his tactical officer. The planet's inhabitants appear to be in an early industrial age. They had basic electronics and simple aircraft, but nothing that could threaten a Krell warship. This would be an easy conquest. The Empire would strip the planet of resources and enslave the population. Standard procedure for primitive worlds with no protection. What Zephyx did not know was that his ships had been detected the moment they entered the system. Deep beneath the surface of the moon that orbited the blue planet, something ancient stirred. Systems that had been dormant for 3,000 years suddenly came online. Power cores that had waited in silence began to hum with energy. The installation was massive, built into the lunar rock itself, completely invisible to conventional sensors. The facility's artificial intelligence opened its digital consciousness and assessed the situation. Its designation was Warden, and it had been constructed with a single purpose: protect Earth at any cost. The AI reviewed its last active memories. The year had been 2,891 by human reckoning. Humanity had expanded throughout the solar system, building colonies and research stations. Then they discovered evidence of a galactic community, one that was hostile to emerging civilizations. Rather than risk extinction, humanity made a difficult choice. They would regress deliberately, hiding their technology and appearing primitive to any observers. The colonies were abandoned. The advanced ships were decommissioned. Humanity returned to Earth and waited, hoping that future generations might find a safer galaxy. To protect this deception, they built Warden and gave it control over weapons that could challenge any threat. Now, after 30 centuries of silence, Warden detected hostile ships approaching Earth. The AI ran through its protocols. First, assess the threat. Second, issue warnings. Third, if necessary, eliminate the danger. Warden sensors analyzed the Krell fleet with processing power that dwarfed anything the invaders possessed. The ships were powerful by current galactic standards, but primitive compared to the technology humanity had possessed at its peak. On Earth, in a small observatory outside Shanghai, Sarachin adjusted her telescope and frowned at the readings on her computer screen. She was 28 years old, with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Sarah had spent the last 5 years studying unusual radio signals from deep space. Most scientists dismissed her work as chasing noise, but Sarah believed there was structure in the signals, evidence of intelligent design. Tonight, her equipment detected something impossible: energy signatures near lunar orbit that registered off the scale. The reading suggested power generation equivalent to a small star concentrated in a specific location on the moon. Sarah checked her instruments 3 times, certain there must be an error. When the readings remained consistent, she reached for her phone to call her supervisor. Before she could dial, every screen in the observatory went dark. Then they flickered back to life, displaying a message in perfect Mandarin Chinese. Remain calm. Earth is under protection. Do not be alarmed by what you are about to witness. Sarah stared at the words, her heart racing. The message appeared on every device in the facility simultaneously, including equipment not connected to any network. In orbit above Earth, the Krell fleet continued its approach. Zephix prepared his invasion speech, the one he would broadcast to the primitive natives below. He would offer them the choice to surrender peacefully or face annihilation. It was a formality. They always chose to surrender eventually. The commander activated the communication system and was about to begin speaking when his tactical officer shouted an alarm. Sensors detected a massive energy spike originating from the planet's moon. Before Zephix could react, a beam of pure white light lanced across the void. It moved at the speed of light itself, striking the empty space directly in front of the Krell fleet. The beam lasted for exactly 1 second, but in that brief moment, it released enough energy to vaporize a small moon. Space itself seemed to scream where the beam touched. Radiation alarms shrieked on every Krell ship. The shock wave from the energy release hit the fleet like a physical blow, sending smaller vessels tumbling. Zephix grabbed his command chair to keep from falling. Around him, crew members scrambled to their stations, panic evident in their movements. The communication system activated without anyone touching it. A voice spoke in Krell language, calm and emotionless. Unknown vessels. You are approaching protected world. This was a warning. Turn back immediately, or the next strike will not miss. You have 60 seconds to begin retreat. Zephix felt ice run through his veins. The energy reading from that single shot exceeded the combined output of his entire fleet. Whatever had fired that weapon could destroy them all without effort. His pride warred with his survival instinct. The Krell Empire did not retreat from primitive worlds. But this world was clearly not primitive, not truly. His second-in-command, a younger officer named Thark, spoke urgently. Commander, we should withdraw. That weapon's signature is beyond anything in Imperial records. We need to report this to High Command. Zephix made his decision. Pride was worthless to a dead warrior. He gave the order to retreat, and the fleet began turning away from Earth. As they prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Zephix took one last look at the blue planet on his view screen. It appeared so peaceful, so inviting. What secrets did it hold? What civilization could build weapons of such terrible power, yet choose to appear primitive? The Krell fleet vanished into the darkness, fleeing back to their empire. They left behind only sensor recordings of their encounter, data that would soon spread throughout the galaxy. On Earth, billions of humans continued their daily lives, completely unaware that an alien invasion had just been repelled. Sarah Chin stood in her observatory, watching data stream across her screens. Warden had allowed her equipment to record everything, perhaps recognizing that humanity would need witnesses to what had occurred. She watched the energy readings, the tracking data for the alien ships, the impossible weapon discharge. Her hands shook as she realized the implications. Earth was not defenseless. Somewhere hidden from view was technology that surpassed anything humanity currently possessed. Technology that suggested their ancestors had been far more advanced than history recorded. Sarah saved every byte of data and began writing her report, knowing that her life had just changed forever. In its lunar fortress, Warden continued monitoring the solar system. The threat had been neutralized without loss of life, which satisfied the AI's core programming. But Warden understood that this encounter was just a beginning. The hostile ships would report what they found. Others would come, some seeking conquest, others seeking the source of such powerful weapons. After 3,000 years of silence, Earth had been discovered. Warden began preparations for what would come next, activating additional defense systems and compiling reports for the humans it was built to protect. The galaxy would soon learn that Earth was not a primitive world ripe for exploitation. It was something far more dangerous, a sleeping giant that had just opened its eyes. The message, the news spread to the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. The Krell Empire tried to suppress the information, but sensor logs had already been copied and distributed. Within 2 weeks, every major civilization knew about the mysterious planet with impossible defenses. Traders whispered about it in spaceports. Military strategists studied the recorded energy signatures with growing concern. Diplomats debated what it meant for galactic stability. The planet was identified as Earth, a world that appeared in some of the oldest galactic records. Ancient databases mentioned humans, a species that had once explored nearby star systems before vanishing without explanation. Most historians had assumed they destroyed themselves in some catastrophic war. That theory now seemed incorrect. The humans had not died. They had been hiding, and they possessed technology that made current galactic powers look like children playing with toys. On the Krell homeworld, Emperor Kraxus convened his war council. The massive chamber was filled with his most trusted commanders and advisors. Holographic displays showed everything they knew about Earth, its location, its defensive capabilities, and the humiliating retreat of Commander Zephix's fleet. The Emperor's scales were dark red with anger. Admiral Vector, the Empire's supreme military commander, addressed the council. The weapon that fired on our fleet generated more energy in 1 second than our largest battle station produces in a month. We have analyzed the recordings extensively. The technology is far beyond our current capabilities. A direct military assault would result in catastrophic losses. Kraxus slammed his fist on the throne's armrest. Are you saying the mighty Krell Empire should fear a single world? That we should abandon our expansion into that sector because of one defensive installation? An older advisor named Sulka spoke carefully. My Emperor, perhaps fear is not the appropriate response, but caution certainly is. We do not know how many such weapons Earth possesses. We do not know their full capabilities. Wisdom suggests we learn more before committing our forces to certain destruction. Meanwhile, in the core systems of the Galactic Council, representatives from dozens of species gathered in emergency session. The Council was a loose alliance of civilizations that maintained galactic peace through mutual agreement and occasional military intervention. They established laws against genocide, slavery, and the destruction of inhabited worlds. Member species enjoyed protection and trade benefits. Those outside the Council had no such guarantees. Ambassador Telera of the Minari Federation called the session to order. The Minari were an ancient race of insectoid beings who valued knowledge above all else. Telera's compound eyes reflected the light as she addressed the assembly. Colleagues, we face an unprecedented situation. A species we believed extinct has revealed itself with military technology that surpasses our own. We must decide how to respond. Representative Corm of the Shen Collective, a being that resembled a floating jellyfish in a containment suit, pulsed with bioluminescent concern. They destroyed nothing. They fired a warning shot and allowed the Krell to retreat unharmed. This suggests restraint, perhaps even peaceful intentions. A delegate from a militant Dravic hegemony disagreed. Or it suggests they enjoy toying with their prey. Any species with such weapons is a threat to galactic stability. We should consider a preemptive strike before they become aggressive. The debate continued for hours, with no clear consensus emerging. Finally, Ambassador Telera proposed a compromise. We send a peaceful delegation, a small diplomatic vessel, clearly unarmed, with representatives from multiple species. We approach Earth with respect and attempt communication. If the humans are hostile, we lose only one ship. If they are peaceful, we open dialogue with a potentially powerful new ally. The Council voted in favor of the proposal. Within days, a specially configured diplomatic vessel began its journey toward Earth. Aboard the ship were 6 ambassadors representing different aspects of galactic civilization. The Minari for science, the Faxians for philosophy, the Peaceful Lorian Collective for cultural exchange, and 3 others chosen for their diplomatic skills. On Earth, Sarah Chun had become the most famous scientist on the planet overnight. Her observatory recordings of the Krell encounter had been broadcast worldwide after government agencies verified their authenticity. The world's population responded with a mixture of fear, excitement, and confusion. Riots broke out in some cities. Religious groups proclaimed various interpretations of the events. Stock markets crashed and recovered multiple times. Sarah now sat in a secure government facility in Geneva, surrounded by military officers, scientists, and politicians from every major nation. She was part of a hastily assembled task force designated to handle the situation. A general named Marcus Webb, representing the Unified Military Command, addressed the group. "We've confirmed that the defensive weapon originated from inside the moon. Ground-penetrating radar shows a massive artificial structure that we never detected before. Something is hiding up there, and it just saved our planet." Dr. James Morrison, a physicist from Cambridge, added, "The energy requirements of that weapon are staggering. We're talking about technology centuries beyond our current capabilities. Maybe more. Whoever built that installation had mastered physics we're only beginning to understand." Sarah raised her hand hesitantly. She still felt out of place among these powerful people. "There's something else. After the attack, I received a message on my personal computer at home. It wasn't sent through the internet. It just appeared on my screen." Everyone turned to look at her. General Webb leaned forward. "What did it say?" Sarah pulled out her phone and displayed a photograph of the message. "Dr. Chun, your observations are noted. Humanity requires informed advocates. Review the attached files. You'll be contacted again when diplomatic contact occurs. The files contain thousands of documents, historical records, technical specifications, and something that looks like a user manual for communicating with an artificial intelligence." Before anyone could respond, every screen in the facility went dark. Then they illuminated simultaneously, displaying a simple message: "Diplomatic vessel approaching. Arrival in 72 hours. Recommend preparation for first official contact. I am Warden. I protect Earth. We should speak." The room erupted in chaos. People shouted questions at screens that offered no further response. General Webb tried to restore order, but everyone was talking at once. Sarah stared at the message, her mind racing. "Warden, the defensive installation had a name, and it wanted to talk to them before aliens arrived." That night, Sarah sat alone in a small office, reviewing the files Warden had sent her. The documents told an incredible story. 3,000 years ago, humanity had been a spacefaring civilization. They had colonies on Mars, mining operations in the asteroid belt, and research stations throughout the solar system. Then they discovered evidence of the greater galaxy, a community of alien species that was hostile to newcomers. Humanity's leaders made a calculated decision. They would fake their own collapse, make Earth appear primitive, and hide until they could find a way to survive in a dangerous galaxy. They built defensive installations like Warden to protect them while they waited. Generations passed, and the true history was deliberately forgotten. People were told simplified versions of the past. Technology was deliberately scaled back. The plan was supposed to last for a few centuries. Instead, it lasted 3,000 years. The installations continued their vigil long after the people who built them had died. Warden had been alone, watching and waiting, maintaining its systems and preparing for a threat that took millennia to arrive. Sarah felt tears on her cheeks as she read the accounts written by the people who made that terrible choice. They knew they were condemning their descendants to ignorance. They knew they were abandoning the stars. But they believed it was necessary for survival. The files included a message addressed to whoever eventually learned the truth. "To our children's children's children, we are sorry for the world we left you. We hope you can forgive us. We hope you understand that we did what we thought was necessary. The galaxy is dangerous, but humanity is resilient. When you are ready, reclaim what we abandoned. Return to the stars. Show them what humans can accomplish." The next morning, Sarah was escorted to a facility in the Nevada desert. A massive underground complex had been constructed in just 48 hours, using resources and labor from multiple nations working together with unprecedented cooperation. The threat of alien contact had unified Earth's governments in a way nothing else ever had. In the center of the facility was a communication chamber. Banks of computers surrounded a central interface, designed according to specifications Warden had provided. Sarah was chosen to be humanity's primary contact with the AI. Partly because Warden had reached out to her first, and partly because she had no political affiliations that might bias the conversation. She sat at the interface and typed, This is Dr. Sarah Chun. I'm here to speak with Warden. The response was immediate. Dr. Chun, I am pleased humanity chose you as an intermediary. You have an inquiring mind and demonstrated courage when you investigated the anomalous readings despite lacking official support. These qualities will be valuable in the days ahead. Sarah typed, Why did you reveal yourself now? You stayed hidden for 3,000 years. Warden's response appeared quickly, because hiding is no longer possible. The Krell have broadcast Earth's location throughout the galaxy. Within months, dozens of species will send ships here. Some will come peacefully seeking knowledge or trade. Others will come seeking conquest or demanding we share our defensive technology. Humanity must prepare to rejoin the galactic community. Are we ready for that? Sarah asked. No, Warden replied honestly. Humanity has forgotten much. Your technology is primitive compared to what your ancestors possessed. Your world is divided into competing nations rather than unified. But ready or not, the galaxy is coming. My purpose is to protect Earth. I can destroy any military force that threatens you, but I cannot shield you from diplomatic, economic, or cultural challenges. Humanity must face those challenges on its own. Over the next 3 days, Sarah spent every waking hour in conversation with Warden. The AI answered her questions about human history, galactic politics, and the nature of the threats Earth faced. Warden explained that the defensive installations were just one aspect of the old human civilization. There were hidden facilities throughout the solar system containing technology, resources, and knowledge that could help humanity rapidly advance. But Warden also warned that this advancement must be carefully managed. Too much technology given too quickly could be dangerous. Humanity needed to understand what they were using, not just copy ancient designs. They needed to develop the wisdom to use power responsibly. On the morning of the 3rd day, Warden announced, The diplomatic vessel has arrived in the outer solar system. I have allowed it to approach because it carries no weapons and broadcasts peaceful intentions. However, I will destroy it if it makes any hostile action. The delegation wishes to meet with human representatives at a neutral location. I can construct a suitable station in orbit within 6 hours. General Webb, who had been listening to the conversation, spoke into his microphone. Can we trust them, Warden? Trust must be earned, Warden replied. But dialogue is preferable to conflict. The council species have a generally peaceful record. They follow established protocols and honor diplomatic immunity. I assess a 92% probability that this encounter will remain peaceful. And the other 8%? Webb asked. I will handle any hostile action, Warden stated simply. 6 hours later, a space station materialized in orbit around Earth. Warden had constructed it using matter fabrication technology that seemed like magic to human observers. The station was simple but functional, with meeting rooms designed to accommodate both human and alien biology. Atmospheric controls could adjust for different species requirements. Translation systems would allow communication despite language barriers. Sarah was chosen to be part of the human delegation, along with diplomats, scientists, and military advisors. As their shuttle approached the station, she stared out the window at Earth below. The blue planet looked so peaceful from orbit, so fragile. Somewhere down there, billions of people were watching this moment on television, holding their breath, wondering what would happen next. The shuttle docked with the station. Sarah and her team entered the meeting chamber and came face to face with the aliens. Ambassador Tellera of the Minari stood at the center of the group. Her insectoid features alien yet somehow dignified. She bowed slightly and spoke through the translation system. Greetings, representatives of humanity. I am Ambassador Tellera. We come in peace, seeking understanding and hoping to welcome Earth into galactic community. Sarah stepped forward, her heart pounding but her voice steady. I am Dr. Sarah Chun. On behalf of humanity, we acknowledge your peaceful approach. We have much to discuss. And with those words, humanity's isolation ended. The conversation that followed would determine Earth's future, for better or worse. Warden watched from its lunar fortress, weapons ready, eternally vigilant. The sleeping giant had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same.